Welcome back for another round of painting today. We should have everything in our primary and secondary sections painted before you begin this today. If not, you'll have some catching up to do. Today, we're going to be painting in the hues for our tertiary colors. So that's going to be our red-orange, yellow-green, blue purple, and red purple. For those tertiary colors, we're only going to be painting in the hues. We're going to be repeating the same technique we use for our primary and secondary hues, and that is the gradient on dry technique. Let's begin today by painting in our red-orange section. To create a red-orange tertiary color, you're going to be mixing the light yellow and crimson red together. Instead of doing it with like 2/3 of light yellow and 1/3 crimson red like we did to mix the orange, you're actually going to be using more red than the yellow, so it leans closer to the red. So I'm going in and I'm adding in more red than the yellow, so I have a more reddish orange look. Next, get your painting out and lay it next to the color. You'll notice that my orange that I created is still not red enough, so I'm going to go back in and add a little bit more red so it's leaning closer to my red triangle. Make sure that this red-orange tertiary color is mixed to the point where you have enough pigment to paint your hue section, but not watered down enough that it's going to be too light in value. When you begin painting, lift the board 30 degrees off of the table, and then very carefully paint in that tertiary red-orange inside your hue section. We're going to be painting it in as a gradient on dry paper. So place that wet color on the top portion of your hue section, and make sure you're keeping the watercolor wet in areas that you've previously painted to help a blend. Make sure that the edges of your triangle are nice and crisp. This is when we're going to start kind of combining and filling in the gaps, so we want everything to be really nice and precise. Now that I've placed in that color, I'm going to slightly wet the brush to start thinning out the pigment on my brush. I'm painting from the left to the right and then the right to the left. As I paint down, I'm going to be dipping my brush more into the water to create a better transition from dark to light. That water is thinning out the pigment so I get that nice gradation of values. Continue pulling down the pigment until you reach the center section of your mandala design. And before moving on to the next color, paint your hue section in every part of your red-orange triangle. Next, you can use that red-orange color that you might have left over in your palette and then just start adding a lot of yellow to it. The more yellow you add, the more you're going to turn that tertiary red-orange color into another tertiary color of yellow-orange. So this time we want our orange to have a more yellowish quality to it. So it's going to start looking more yellow than it is red. When you have that good color, compare it back to your painting and then paint that yellow-orange into every hue section as a gradient on dry within your yellow-orange triangle. The next tertiary color you're going to mix is going to be yellow-green. To begin, start with yellow and add enough yellow onto your palette where that's the majority amount of color you're going to have. Then you're going to use cyan blue, and you're only going to add a little tiny bit of the blue into the yellow. We don't want the cyan blue to, dominate it too much because we are trying to create that nice yellow-green tertiary color. Feel free to add in more yellow and slightly bits of blue to get enough yellow-green to paint in your yellow-green hues as gradients on dry in your yellow-green triangle section. The fourth tertiary color that you're going to be adding in today is going to be your blue-green tertiary color. For this, you're going to start with yellow again, but instead of only putting in a little amount of cyan blue, I would like you to put in a lot of cyan blue. We want this green to look more blue than we want it to look more yellow. So blue should be the dominating factor. Now you're going to notice that blue-green is going to be way more intense next to the ultramarine color. So I did decide to go in and I added a touch of ultramarine blue into this just to kind of get it to fit with the blue, but you don't have to do that if you don't want to. You can just stick with the cyan blue and then a little bit of yellow. And once you have your blue-green mixed, paint in your hues as gradients on dry in your blue-green mandala triangle section. You're getting to be almost done. So for our second to last tertiary color, you're going to be making a bluish purple. I like to start with blue since that's going to be the dominating color. Then I go in with a little bit of red and making sure I'm not adding too much red because I want that purple to have a more bluish quality. Make sure you're lifting or mixing enough color to fill all of your hue sections. And once you have that bluish purple mixed, then you can paint it in as gradients on dry in your blue purple section. For your final tertiary color, you're going to be mixing your red purple hue. Begin with red since that is the dominant color. Then add in a little bit of blue just to make it look a little bit more like a red purple. Once you have that reddish purple color mixed, then you can paint it into the hues in your red purple triangle section as gradients on dry. By the end of today, you should have all of your tertiary hues painted within your mandala as gradients on dry. So your red-orange, yellow-orange, yellow-green, blue-green, blue-purple, and red-purple should all be painted in by the end of today.